The first two episodes of the Lord of the Rings prequel is out. The Rings of Power, a Prime Video exclusive. This makes 3 shows from Amazon that have made big waves in entertainment. The Boys, Invincible, and now The Rings of Power. Those past shows really surprised me about how far Amazon was willing to go with budget and quality. But The Rings of Power take it even further. This is by far the most expensive show ever made, and it shows. This shit's extravagant. Full-blown modern movie quality in every scene. Bezos is trying to flex on someone. Maybe Netflix, maybe HBO. But damn, this is the most visually ambitious series I've ever seen. It's not just the CGI, even the shots are executed in a way that grips you. Makes the Wheel of Time adaptation look even worse, if that was ever possible. Really wish I didn't waste my time with that one. Eerie how these big budget shows follow the same format for their opening title intros. Cool graphics with no characters in sight. Game of Thrones did it, then Westworld, now House of the Dragon, and The Rings of Power. The people responsible have clearly taken notes on how much class and elegance they bring. Hardcore book and movie Lord of the Rings fans may have been throwing tantrums over the past few months over this show's creation. I've personally never dived into the novels, but I've heard some comments about this not being a perfectly faithful adaptation of the lore book by the original author J.R.R. Tolkien, a writer looked at as the king of high fantasy. But if a show is good, then it doesn't really matter how faithful an adaptation it is in my opinion. The books are still there for you to enjoy. The Rings of Power is good. 2 episodes in and I'm very excited to check out more. I have House of the Dragon to look forward to every Sunday, and now I got Rings of the Power on Fridays to make my week even better. I went in with no expectations, and they put out a digestible show for casual viewers of Lord of the Rings like me. There's a lot of info packed in, but the exposition is done right. I'm underselling it actually. The first few minutes of the show are damn good. I just wish there was more time dedicated to it. I'll be light with the spoilers since this thing just dropped, but the main character, Galadriel's motivations, are a result of her brother's failed goals, and the show truly revolves around her story arc. We just needed more time with the siblings to understand why their connection is so strong. A couple seconds won't do it. I think the showrunner was aiming for 5 seasons, so they had all the time in the world to develop this. But at least they did make Galadriel's story very fun to follow. A solid balance for the hero to be this flawed. While the writers may have balanced this character's traits and plot, the rest fall way shorter. The other major characters we switch perspectives to throughout the first 2 episodes aren't bad or that boring, just don't live up to Galadriel's. Obviously the prequel is trying to capture that same magical mix between a dark and campy fantasy, but the original Lord of the Rings do it better than any other series ever made. That's why the fanbase is so diverse. It's gonna be hard living up to that standard. The Hobbit trilogy had its problems, and so far The Rings of Power is doing a better job keeping me glued to my screen. While dialogue can be hard to stomach at times, with the level of corn thrown in. I keep asking myself if they hired a cheesy poet to do some of the writing. I think the biggest hurdle the prequel is going to have to face is pacing. When we switch to the perspective of the hobbits, well, they're something like hobbits. They've been calling themselves half-woods so far. It feels like a rehash of so many other stories. The same with the racial issues between the patrolling elves and the human village. Not everyone will recognize the Lord of the Rings as the OG creator of all these tropes in fantasy. You can't really fall back on that excuse. The half-foot story with the girls remind me of Frodo and Sam going on their venture. An adventure bigger than what anyone expects they can handle. These scenes, away from Galadriel, may lose people. Things get even campier and simpler with the dwarves. I do like how they're playing with the themes that come with an immortal race. Elves walk around like gods of the world, and that can come with its own conflicts between other races. A question for book readers. Hopefully you can fill me in here. How far can an elf swim? I have a lot of questions about what was happening in the waters. There's also a lot of symbolism, and I'm sure some Easter eggs that just flew over my head. But if you like fantasy, you'll instantly be hooked with this show. I'm having a good laugh at all the comments and posts about everything surrounding the Rings of Power. That particular sect of the internet, you know what I'm talking about, was convinced this will be a hot load of woke shit. But every form of media with a prominent female or black character has to be part of a grand agenda for them. There's also a light-hearted feud between House of the Dragon and this show. Trust me, if you like one, I'm sure you'll like the other. Maybe not equally, but you'll like both. I think this entire prequel is summarized in the first few minutes of the Fellowship of the Ring, which takes away all the suspense and sense of danger. But if there's a good story to tell, I'm happy to consume it all. So far, it's a good story. I highly recommend giving it a chance, though it's not objectively amazing. Just don't come for me if it takes a shitty turn 5 seasons in. So many shows start off so strong, but can't stick the landing. Endings are hard, and that's why I have such a hard time investing hours and hours into a series. But it's not like I could not check out the most expensive show ever made, especially after loving The Boys and Invincible. I like The Boys better than The Rings of Power, but if this keeps going strong, it should surpass Invincible in my rankings. I don't know how many videos I'll be making for the show. The only thing I've planned is a review at the end of the season. I always feel weird doing reviews after only one single episode, as there has to be build-up that may seem boring at first but pays off heavy at the end. If you guys want more, let me know. I'll be happy to talk about cool moments from now until that finale. But for now, back to House of the Dragon videos. See you guys Sunday.